Before Audrey got sick, we were just a regular family. We had a dog. We were, a mom and a dad and a son and a daughter. We were the $1 million family. So when Audrey first got sick, the first sign to us was that one of her pupils was dilated more than the others. And about a week later, she had a nickel-sized bump on the side of her neck. And over the next 4 or 5 weeks while we were getting that looked into, it continued growing. And by the time that we ended up in Vancouver, her tumor was the size of a tennis ball. It was scary, obviously. You hope and you pray that it's not as serious as it could be, but in the back of your mind, you know that it could be something extremely serious and life-threatening. So Audrey was diagnosed with a cancer called embryonal rhabdomyosarcoma. It's a sarcoma that attaches to muscle tissue, and her treatment plan was for 42 weeks of chemotherapy and for 28 radiation treatments that happened in the States. She was a sick little girl. I remember reading the discharge papers from that first day in the hospital, and the words that they used to describe her body were emaciated, which basically means that there was nothing basically healthy left on her frame. Her body was so depleted of its energy and of its fat stores. So she had a feeding tube that we would feed her through overnight. Anything that she would put in her mouth during the day, we would be happy for her to do that. If it was cupcake icing for breakfast, then we were happy for her to have that. Every 3 weeks was a big chemo that we had to be hospitalized for so that she could get hydration and flush all of the drugs out of her system. So those every 3-week chemos were big. Her and I basically lived away from home for 10 months. We decided that it would be too hard on all of us to come back and forth, too expensive to come back and forth. And we wanted to be in Vancouver where we knew that the doctors would be able to help us if something went wrong. So Audrey finishing her last chemo a year ago, since then we've really learned a lot about the ongoing side effects, the things that will continue in her life. Although she's healthy from cancer at this point, there's a lot of things in her life and in her future that will not be healthy. Her thyroid has been damaged. She'll have to take a pill for the rest of her life for that. Her teeth, her jaw, from the radiation, there's damage there. Dental is always a concern. She will have physical deformities in the future. So a lot of different things that are a result of her treatment that will change her life.
Although Audrey right now, thankfully, is free from cancer, there are still lots of side effects from all of the interventions that she's undergone that we have to monitor. So firstly, the initial things that happened after her treatment was obviously, since it was facial, she had some difficulties with feeding, and she had to have NG tubes in her nose going to her tummy to support her growth. Given the area that was that had proton beam radiation and irradiation, and the fact that she was on chemo, her thyroid gland isn't working as well, so she needs to take medication to ensure that her body's receiving those hormones. Given that it did affect her ear, she has to follow up with ear, nose, and throat doctors on a regular basis. She did lose hearing. Fortunately, that is slowly coming back, but it's not back to normal, so she's had hearing loss on that side and might need further surgeries down the road. Also, with chemotherapy, we have to monitor heart function because some of those medications are toxic to your heart, and so we have to continuously watch to make sure she doesn't develop any cardiac toxicity down the road. Other things that she's at risk for as well is secondary tumors, mostly because the bone was irradiated. She's at risk of developing bony tumors secondary to irradiation, as well as with some of the chemotherapy, she's at risk of developing leukemias. Energy levels, her ability to go through the day, given the years of chemotherapy and hospitalizations, she's deconditioned, so she had to work through all of that and get back to a level where she's able to attend school and able to do her dance and all the things that she does, which is much more difficult than you think. And so those are kind of things that we have to work through. Also, the area of her brain that was irradiated, we're still not sure if that will affect her ability to concentrate down the road.
When Audrey was sick, we were really lucky. We had a community who came around us. We had friends and family who helped raise money for the fact that I wasn't working. Ryan was taking time off to be with us. The fact that medications cost a lot of money when you're that sick. So we were lucky to receive a lot of support and also some funding from charities and organizations.
The North 400 has been going on for 3 years. This is our 3rd year. It is all about kids with cancer and families that are going through this awful disease. So we decided we were going to try and put an event on that would challenge people physically to realize a personal achievement as far as riding from Jasper to Prince George in one day, and combine that with, link it to a cause that was a really great cause. So 100% of our funds that we raise with the North 400 go to the Cops for Cancer Tour de North project. 80% of those funds go to research for pediatric cancer, and 20% of those funds go to Camp Good Times, which is an amazing camp down in Maple Ridge, and it's where kids can go and be kids again and not worry about scars and balding heads and puffy cheeks from chemo or treatments. And it's fully medically supported 24 hours a day, so it's an opportunity for families to go and really see and be around other people that have gone through what they've gone through and relate to each other and kind of forget about what they've been through for a week, and that's a real relief to a lot of families.
So this ride is really important to all of us who ride this because we know that this can bring awareness. A lot of people don't either understand what pediatric cancer is, or when they hear it, they either think it won't happen to our family. What we do with our event is awareness and raise money, and we have an opportunity to get around and talk to people. Everyone knows a lot of people. We network with our professional associations and with friends, and it works, and more people are kind of comfortable talking about this topic.
I do the ride personally because I teach high school, and I know a lot of kids who have had cancer and who have had other illnesses as well. So any way that I can help give back and help out those youth and adolescents is definitely something I want to do.
It's a good way to bring other people in the community together to unite for a common cause, and raising funds for kids with cancer. It's hard to find a better cause than that. So
Events like the North 400 ride means that there's hope for us. There's hope that maybe in the future there's a total cure. Maybe in the future the treatments won't be so harsh. Maybe the side effects won't be so drastic. I think that's the biggest thing. It's hope that people will understand how life-changing it is, and the fact that kids die from this. Yeah, it just gives us hope to keep moving forward. So one thing that we hear all the time when we go to Vancouver, when we see different doctors, is we don't know. We don't know what the future will hold. We don't know if cancer will return. We don't know if a secondary cancer will come. We don't know what she'll look like. We don't know how her hearing will be. We don't know until it happens, and it's scary not knowing if a year from now, 5 years from now, if she'll even be here. Yeah, I guess it's scary just to not know what we're going to be up against. And she's so young, she's going to be up against a lot. You never think that your child will end up with cancer. And for the most part, that's true. And to think about having a child with cancer, knowing a child with cancer, knowing a child who dies from cancer, that hurts, and it's easy to shut off and turn off those thoughts and to never think of them again. But for the families who have had to experience having a child with cancer, having a child die from cancer, knowing friends who have died from cancer, that's not an option for us, and they deserve to be thought about, and their stories deserve to be shared.